2 days before Thanksgiving, I got a text from my mom that made my stomach sink. "Hey Noah, we're keeping it small this year, just immediate family. Hope you understand. I'm Noah, 29 years old, and for the past 3 years, I've spent every Thanksgiving either hosting or helping cook the big meal for my family. I'm the middle child between my older sister Claire and younger brother Luke. Our family isn't huge, but we've always been tight-knit. Or at least, I thought we were. Until this year. Thanksgiving used to be my favorite holiday. I'd wake up early, make sweet potato casserole from scratch, and rotate between watching the parade and helping in the kitchen. It wasn't just about the food. It was the only time of year the whole family slowed down and shared a table, even if it meant biting our tongues through Claire's latest drama or Luke's passive-aggressive comments about my job. But we were there, together. That meant something. So when I got that text, just immediate family, I stared at it for a full minute, confused. I even reread it a few times, wondering if I was missing something. Because I am immediate family. I mean, I'm not married, I don't have kids. Maybe that's why I was easy to cut out. But still, I was born into this family. I lived 5 blocks from my parents. I was at every birthday, every barbecue, every moving day. I helped my mom repaint her kitchen last April and babysat Claire's twins when she had the flu last month. So what was I missing? I almost called her right then and there, but something in me, a quiet, tense little voice I didn't usually listen to, said don't. Just wait. An hour later, I was scrolling Instagram while waiting for the pasta to boil when I saw it. Claire had posted a story. A boomerang. The camera panned across a long, oak dining table draped in burnt orange linens and decorated with leaf-shaped name cards, candles, and a ridiculous-looking turkey centerpiece. There were 15, yes, 15, place settings. I counted. Laughter echoed in the background, and someone shouted, "Luke, stop picking at the pies." My hand froze over the boiling pot. I watched the story again. Slower. Claire, who lived 45 minutes away, had driven in early and helped my mom set up. Luke was there. The twins were running around in the background, wearing matching little sweaters. My dad, who usually avoided social media like the plague, was even carving a turkey in one of the clips. Aunt Mel, Uncle Ray, Cousin Jamie, and his new girlfriend. All of them. Everyone. Except me. I didn't text back. I didn't call. I didn't even get angry. I just stood there for a while, staring at my screen with that weird blankness that happens when your brain's trying to catch up to your feelings. I cooked dinner for myself that night. Baked salmon with green beans and garlic mashed potatoes, like I always make when I need comfort. I poured a glass of wine, set a place at the table just for me, and turned off my phone. It wasn't even about being left out of a meal. It was what it said without saying it, that I was disposable. Not worth the courtesy of a real explanation. That they decided I didn't belong and hoped I wouldn't make a fuss. I slept okay that night, surprisingly. Or maybe my body was just exhausted from feeling too many things at once. The next morning, I woke up to 22 missed calls. 4 from Mom, 6 from Claire, 3 from Luke. And the rest? A mix of aunts, cousins, and even a neighbor. My phone buzzed again as I stared at the screen. Another call from Claire. I declined it. Then I noticed the voicemail icon. One new message. It was from my Aunt Mel, time-stamped at 1:13 a.m. Her voice was soft, almost hesitant. She whispered something that made my hands shake. And that's when I realized something much bigger than hurt feelings was going on. Something that had been simmering under the surface for longer than I'd noticed. Something that, if I was right, was about to change everything. I didn't play the voicemail right away. I just stared at the timestamp, 1:13 a.m., and replayed the past 24 hours in my head like a slow, silent film. The forgotten invite, the 15 place settings, the story, the text from Mom. Everything swirled around like dirty dishwater, and I felt like I was floating somewhere outside of my own body, watching this all happen to someone else. But I couldn't put it off forever. I sat down at the kitchen table, still set from the night before with my single plate and now empty wine glass, and pressed play. Aunt Mel's voice came through, shaky and low. "Noah. Honey, I don't know what happened, but I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I thought you were out of town. That's what your mom told everyone. That you were on a trip and couldn't make it." She paused. I heard a muffled clatter in the background, maybe her setting down a glass. I only found out that wasn't true when Claire slipped up. She made some joke about you being dramatic and not coming because you were in one of your moods. Another pause. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Something's not right. I just wanted you to know that. I love you, sweetheart. Call me when you can. That was it. I didn't even notice I was gripping the phone so tightly until my fingers went numb. In one of your moods. Is that what they were telling people now? That I was being dramatic for not showing up to a dinner I was explicitly uninvited from? That I was sulking instead of, I don't know, being systematically erased from my own family? And the lie about me being out of town, that's what hit hardest. Mom didn't just exclude me. She made sure to have a neat little cover story in place so no one would ask questions. It wasn't just a last-minute decision. It was planned. They planned this. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was pacing the living room, my hands clenched into fists. There's a strange kind of fury that comes not from being yelled at, not from being called names, but from being quietly rewritten. From realizing people you love have looked you in the face, smiled, and then walked into another room to delete you from the photo. It wasn't about the turkey. It wasn't even about Thanksgiving anymore. It was about everything that came before it, the breadcrumbs I'd ignored, thinking they were one-offs. Claire's birthday party last year, when she forgot to mention the date change and told me, "Oh, I figured you'd see it on Facebook." Luke borrowing money and then ghosting me for 2 months when I asked for a repayment plan. Mom asking me to house sit for a weekend and forgetting to tell me she'd invited Claire and the kids to stay over too, turning my quiet weekend into a chaotic circus. The jokes, the jabs, the little things, and I'd let them slide. Every time. Because I didn't want to be the guy who made things awkward. I didn't want to be the problem. But here I was. The problem anyway. I didn't call anyone that day. Not Mom. Not Claire. Not Luke. Not even Aunt Mel, though I probably should have. I just needed time. Space. Silence. I went for a walk. I deleted Instagram. I cooked again, even though I wasn't hungry. I didn't trust myself to speak without breaking something. It was the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday everyone else calls Black Friday, but I just called Friday, when everything finally exploded. Around 2 p.m., I opened my front door to grab a package and nearly tripped over a basket sitting on my welcome mat. A basket. One of those pre-made ones with cellophane and a big bow. Inside were cookies, scented candles, and a little card that said, "We missed you. Hope you had a relaxing Thanksgiving. Love, Mom." No note. No explanation. Just a gesture. I stood there, holding that basket like it was radioactive. I must have looked insane to the neighbors. I walked it back inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and just stared at it. Who does that? Who uninvites their own child from a family holiday, lies to everyone about why he's not there, and then sends a basket like it's all just a misunderstanding? It felt insulting, like I was being handled, brushed off, tucked neatly into the fragile box so no one had to deal with my emotions. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding, and finally texted my mom. "Me, got your gift basket. You could have just talked to me." She replied 3 minutes later. Fast. "Mom, I'm sorry things got miscommunicated. We didn't want to overwhelm you. You've seemed distant lately, and I thought maybe you needed space." Space. That wasn't space. That was exile. Me. You told everyone I was out of town. What? No reply. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Then an hour. Finally, Claire texted. "Claire, hey. Mom's upset. Can you stop making this into a thing?" I blinked. Making this into a thing? Me? I was lied about and excluded from a family holiday. How is that not a thing already? "Claire, it was just a dinner, Noah. Chill. You always take everything so personally." That's when I knew. This wasn't going to get fixed with a conversation. Because they didn't see it as a mistake. They saw it as justified. Deserved, even. I was the scapegoat. The sensitive one. The guy they could toss out, and then act confused when he didn't smile and wave from the curb. And it only got worse. On Sunday, 2 days after the basket incident, I got a call from Luke. I let it go to voicemail. When I listened, he sounded irritated. "Hey man, can you not drag everyone into your issues? You weren't even supposed to come, and now Mom's crying, Claire's mad, and Aunt Mel keeps calling. Seriously, grow up. Grow up." I almost laughed. It was like I was in some alternate universe where reality had bent sideways. I was the one left out, lied about, gaslit. And now I was the problem? The final straw came that night. I was sitting on my couch, laptop open, trying to write out everything that had happened. Just for myself, not even planning to share it, when my doorbell rang. I froze. It was after 9. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw Claire. Standing there in a giant wool coat, arms crossed, clearly annoyed. I opened the door slowly. She didn't wait for an invitation. She just walked right in. "You need to stop this," she said flatly. "You're tearing the family apart over your feelings." I shut the door behind her. "I'm tearing the family apart? You uninvited me." "You were never uninvited," she snapped. "We said immediate family." I just looked at her. "And what am I?" She waved a hand, exasperated. "You know what I mean. Parents, siblings, kids, spouses. You don't have anyone, Noah. It's not personal. It just didn't make sense to crowd the table with people who aren't building families." I stared at her like she'd slapped me. "I am family." She didn't blink. "You're single. No kids. No wife. You just float around. You don't get to act like the victim when you're the one who doesn't fit into how we're trying to do things now." I was silent. Every word was like a stone in my chest. She softened, or pretended to. "Look, I'm sorry you felt excluded. But it's done. Move on. We're still inviting you to Christmas. So don't ruin that too." That was it. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just move on. She left a minute later, after I didn't respond. Just shook her head like I was the one being irrational and walked out into the night. I didn't sleep at all. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, hearing her voice on repeat. "You don't have anyone. You just float around." The words festered. Not because they were true, but because they were rehearsed. They had decided that was my role. And now they were all sticking to the script. But I wasn't going to play along anymore. Because as much as it hurt, the exclusion, the lies, the rewriting of reality, what stung the most was the realization that they were already preparing to do it again. And I wasn't going to let them. Not this time. Rock bottom didn't arrive all at once. It crept in slowly, like a leak under the floorboards you don't notice until you're ankle deep in water. After Claire's visit, I didn't talk to anyone in my family for a full week. No calls, no texts, no social media. It was the first time I'd gone that long without some kind of contact. Even when I'd traveled abroad, even when I was sick, silence settled in around me like fog, and for a while, I just let it. I wasn't eating much. I kept cooking like usual, but the food stayed on the plate. I'd sit there, fork in hand, staring past the steam rising from the pot, trying to remember if I'd ever really fit in, or if I'd just been trying so hard for so long that I convinced myself I did. I replayed conversations from years ago. I started questioning whether I'd always been the outsider and just didn't see it until now. By the third night, I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Christmases, birthdays, even some random Tuesday dinners at my parents' house. There I was, always in the background, holding a tray of drinks, carving the ham, blowing up balloons for Claire's twins. Always helping, always smiling, always present. I wasn't angry anymore. I was hollow. There's something about being so easily replaced, or worse, erased, that makes you doubt every shared moment. Every "I love you." Every time someone said, "We're so glad you're here." Because clearly, they weren't. I didn't tell anyone what I was feeling. Not my friends. Not my coworkers. I went to work, nodded through meetings, smiled when someone cracked a joke, but I was somewhere else entirely. I was in that dining room, counting place settings that weren't for me. The real breaking point came on a Sunday. I was walking home from the grocery store with 2 bags of basics. Eggs, milk, cereal, things I didn't really need but bought just to get out of the house, when I passed by a bakery window and saw a little girl sitting at a table with her dad. She was maybe 7 or 8, and she was laughing so hard she had to wipe her eyes. Her dad was holding a cupcake and pretending it was a phone, talking into it in a silly voice. I stopped, just stood there, watching them, and for a moment, something cracked inside me. Not because I wanted a daughter, not because I wanted a cupcake, but because that man showed up. He made that girl feel like she mattered, like she was worth making a fool of himself in public for. And all I could think was, why didn't they do that for me? I went home and cried in the shower for the first time in years. It was like something snapped, but not in a loud, dramatic way, more like a quiet click, like a door finally closing behind me. That was the fall. But what I didn't realize at the time was that it was also the start of the rise. The next morning, I opened my laptop and did something impulsive. I started writing. Not a journal entry, not a letter, but a blog post. I hadn't used my old blog in almost 2 years. I'd made it in college, posted a few recipes and travel logs, then forgot about it. But the login still worked, and the words came pouring out. I wrote about being left out, about the lies, About the dinner table with 15 place settings and none for me. About how it felt to be quietly exiled by your own blood. I didn't name names. I didn't post pictures. I just told the truth in raw, simple words. Then I hit publish. I didn't expect anyone to read it. I didn't even share it. But 2 days later, I got an email. Then another. Then 10 more. Strangers. People who'd stumbled across the post and said it made them cry. Said they'd been through the same thing. Said they'd spent holidays alone while watching their families pretend everything was fine without them. Some shared their own stories. Some just said thank you. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen. That was the first ember. The first spark. So I kept writing. Not just about Thanksgiving, but about other moments, little things I'd buried. The time Luke borrowed my laptop and returned it with a cracked screen and no apology. The year Claire took credit for a charity fundraiser I organized. The way my mom always acted like I was too sensitive anytime I asked for basic respect. And still, I didn't name names. I wasn't looking to expose anyone. I just needed to reclaim my story. The blog started to grow. Comments came in. A small following started forming. Mostly people who'd been estranged from their families, or who were the black sheep, like me. I started getting DMs from people saying, I thought I was alone. I even got an offer from a small online publication asking if I wanted to contribute a monthly column. I said yes. The pay wasn't much, but it was something. And more importantly, it gave me a sense of agency. I wasn't just the guy left out of Thanksgiving anymore. I was someone with a voice, with a story. Work started feeling lighter too. I stopped hiding. I leaned into projects, volunteered for a mentorship program, started eating lunch with a few coworkers I used to politely avoid. One of them, Ethan, invited me to a weekend hiking group. I almost said no, but then I remembered how Claire said I floated around with no real connections. So I went, and it was good, really good. We hiked through a nature preserve an hour out of town. I talked to people. I laughed. I shared stories that had nothing to do with betrayal or family or pain. I was just Noah, and nobody expected anything from me except to show up and be present. I went again the next week, then the next. The blog kept growing too. I gave it a new name, The Missing Chair. People seemed to like that. It became a space for all the misfits, the overlooked, the quietly hurt. One night, I posted an essay called, When the People Who Raised You Don't Recognize You Anymore. It got picked up by a larger site, went mildly viral. A podcaster reached out and asked to interview me. I did it, nervous but honest. It aired a week later, and one of the first comments on the YouTube video made my breath catch. It was from a user named JustJames1987. The profile picture was blank, but I knew that username. It was my cousin James. The comment said, I think I know who this is. If I'm right, I'm sorry. I didn't know. You deserved better. That night, I got a text from Aunt Mel. Aunt Mel, I just listened to your interview. I'm proud of you. And I'm so sorry, Noah. We all should have seen it sooner. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, Me. Thank you. It was small, but it mattered. Not long after, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in over a decade, an old college friend named Adam. He'd moved back into town, was running his own marketing firm now. We caught up over coffee, and when I told him about the blog and the column, his eyes lit up. You know, we're always looking for good content writers, he said casually. Freelance to start, maybe more if it works out. I didn't say yes right away. I didn't want to leap just because it sounded shiny. But after thinking about it, I sent over my portfolio. He hired me within a week. More work, more purpose, more me. And still, I hadn't spoken to my mom, Claire, or Luke. Christmas was approaching, and I knew they'd reach out eventually. Try to paper over everything with gifts or vague apologies. I was already getting pings from extended family again. Uncle Ray, Cousin Lily, even Dad had sent a quick, hope you're well text. But I wasn't the same person anymore. I'd hit rock bottom and realized something that shocked me. I was still standing. I didn't need their version of family to feel whole. I was building my own. Not with blood, maybe, but with truth, with courage, with connection. With every hike, every post, every person who wrote to say, thank you for saying what I couldn't. Still, I hadn't forgotten. Because underneath it all, something had started to stir in me. Something calm, cold, focused. I wasn't looking for revenge in the classic sense. I didn't want to scream, or shame, or fight. But there's a kind of revenge in thriving. In witnessing people who threw you away realize they underestimated you. And whether they knew it or not, my family had just handed me the perfect opportunity. Christmas was coming, and they had no idea what I was planning. The first snow fell the week before Christmas. I remember because I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, watching flurries drift past the window as a jazz version of Silent Night hummed from the speakers overhead. My laptop was open. My second column for the magazine had just gone live, and I was sipping a gingerbread latte like someone who had their life together. And for once, maybe I did. It had been 3 weeks since Claire showed up at my door and told me I didn't fit in with the new version of our family. 3 weeks since my mother sent me a gift basket instead of a real apology. 3 weeks since Luke left me a voicemail telling me to grow up. I hadn't responded to any of them, but they had started to reach out again. The frequency of texts had shifted, not daily, but trickling in more consistently. Claire sent me a photo of her kids with Santa. Mom forwarded me a chain email about Christmas recipes, as if nothing had happened. Luke even sent a meme. I didn't reply, not because I wanted to punish them, because I was planning something. You see, something changed after I started telling the truth. Not just online, but to myself. The more I wrote, the more I realized that this wasn't just about one Thanksgiving dinner. This was about a pattern, a system, a family dynamic that had existed for years, built on silence, roles, and unspoken rules. Claire was the golden child. Luke was the charming baby. I was the reliable one, the helper, the filler, the one who held the camera, never in the shot. And somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me as a person. I became a fixture, useful, predictable, easily stored away when inconvenient. But not anymore. That coffee shop was where the idea came to me. I hadn't been planning anything specific, not until I saw a flyer on the bulletin board by the door. Holiday Story Slam. Theme: Home for the Holidays, December 22nd. Share your truth. Share your story. Win $1,000. I stared at it for a while, heart thudding. Then I tore it down and walked out into the snow. The event was held at a small theater in the Arts District. The rules were simple: 5 minutes max, no props, just you and a microphone. The top 3 stories would be recorded and aired on a local radio station. The winner would get the prize. But I wasn't after the money. I wanted the airtime. I wanted my story, not the twisted version my family passed around in whispers, not the sanitized lie they told the aunts and uncles, but my story, in my voice, reaching people who might finally understand. I signed up that night. Over the next week, I crafted my piece. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't accusatory. It was calm, careful, and devastatingly honest. I didn't name anyone, but anyone listening would know. Anyone in my family who heard it would recognize themselves. I rehearsed in front of the mirror, rewrote it half a dozen times, practiced the pauses, the emphasis, the soft ending line that would leave the room in silence. And while I did that, I made another move. I emailed Aunt Mel. Not a long message, just a single paragraph, thanking her for her voicemail and support, and asking a question. Would you be willing to come to something I'm speaking at next week? It's small, local, but it would mean a lot if someone I trusted were in the room. She replied within an hour. I'll be there. Just tell me when. A day later, I reached out to my cousin James, the one who left the YouTube comment. I hadn't spoken to him in years beyond the occasional family gathering, but his message had stuck with me. Hey, I saw your comment. Thank you. I'm doing a story slam next week. It's about the holidays. I think it might hit close to home. If you're around, I'd love it if you came. He wrote back the next morning. I'll come. And Noah, I really am sorry. I think we all got too used to you being the strong one. By December 20th, I had 6 people confirmed. Aunt Mel, James, 2 friends from work, Ethan from the hiking group, and, surprisingly, my old English professor, who had apparently been following the missing chair and reached out to say how proud he was. A small crowd, but loyal, real, the ones who chose me. Meanwhile, the messages from my family intensified. Mom, Christmas dinner is at 5. We'd love to see you there. Claire, the girls want to know if Uncle Noah's coming. You don't have to bring anything. Luke, don't be stubborn, man. It's just dinner. Not a single apology among them. Not even an acknowledgement of what they'd done. They wanted the problem to vanish. For me to slide back into my old role, the quiet one, the helper, the dependable shadow. And for a moment, I almost gave in. Almost. But then I thought about Thanksgiving. About the 15 place settings. About Claire's words. You just float around. And I remembered that I wasn't floating anymore. I was building something. The night of the event arrived. December 22nd. The theater was dim and warm, with fairy lights strung across the ceiling. I sat backstage with a dozen other performers, each nervously shuffling note cards or mouthing lines to themselves. My hands were cold. My heart wouldn't stop racing. Aunt Mel met me at the entrance with a hug and a thermos of tea. "You're going to be brilliant," she said, and squeezed my shoulder. James came, too, with his girlfriend, who I'd never met. He looked nervous, but when we made eye contact, he gave me a small, firm nod. I went sixth. The performer before me told a hilarious story about getting locked in an airport bathroom on Christmas Eve. The crowd roared with laughter. Then the MC called my name, and everything went quiet. I stepped into the light, held the mic, took a breath, and began. I always thought holidays were about belonging, about home, about knowing that no matter how strange or frustrating your family might be, you still had a seat at the table. But this year, I learned something else. I learned that sometimes people love the version of you that serves them, the version that stays quiet, the version that makes the green bean casserole and offers to clean up afterward and doesn't mind when everyone else leaves without saying thank you. I learned that when you stop fitting their picture, they will crop you out. But I also learned that being cut out isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new kind of clarity, of rebuilding, of realizing that your worth is not decided by who puts out a chair for you, but by who shows up when there's nothing in it for them. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. I was erased from a holiday, lied about, laughed at behind my back, and I let myself believe that maybe I was the problem. But I'm not. I'm just someone who finally noticed the silence around me and chose to fill it with my own voice. I ended with that. The room was still. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room. Not a roar. Not a standing ovation. But steady, heartfelt applause that buzzed through my chest. When I stepped off stage, Aunt Mel had tears in her eyes. "You told the truth," she said softly. "That takes guts." James hugged me. No words. Just a long, tight embrace. Later that night, I found out I'd won second place. They played my story on the local radio Christmas Eve. And at 6:42 p.m., I got a text from my mom. "Mom, I heard your story." I didn't reply. At least not yet. Because this wasn't the climax. This was the setup. And what came next? That would be the part they never saw coming. Christmas morning was quiet. No sounds of nieces running down the hallway in matching pajamas. No chaotic kitchen filled with burnt cinnamon rolls and laughter over ruined recipes. No awkward family games with people pretending nothing ever happened. Just me, a hot mug of black coffee, and the soft crackle of the fireplace playing on my TV. It was peaceful, still, and for the first time in years, I wasn't pretending. I hadn't answered Mom's text from the night before. "I heard your story." No follow-up. No apology. No, "I'm sorry I hurt you." Just a statement, like it was weather. But she'd heard it. That meant they all had. I didn't need confirmation. I knew Claire had probably played it back 3 times in her car, searching for loopholes, looking for ways to make it about her. I imagined Luke shrugging, trying to play it cool until the silence in the room made him shift in his seat. And Dad, silent as always, probably nodded and said, "He makes some good points," before retreating into his newspaper. But it wasn't their reactions I was waiting for. It was the perfect moment. You see, everything had led to this. The erasure, the lies, the gaslighting, and most of all, their need to control the narrative, to maintain the image. A perfect, functional, close-knit family. Picture-worthy, dinner table-worthy, Facebook album-worthy. And I was about to give them exactly what they didn't want. Truth. At 8:30 a.m., I scheduled the post. Not on my blog. On my family's Facebook group. The one my mom created years ago called Family Fun and Food. It had 42 members, cousins, aunts, in-laws, distant relatives who still asked if I was seeing anyone. For years, I'd been the main poster. Photos of Claire's kids. Updates on family potlucks. Dad's birthday cookouts. I'd been the one keeping it alive. But today, it had a new post. A holiday reflection from Noah. I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I didn't drag anyone by name. I simply shared the transcript of my story slam speech, word for word, and followed it with a quiet, devastating note. I wasn't going to share this here. But after being excluded from Thanksgiving and told that I didn't fit into my own family, I realized silence protects no one but the ones doing the harm. If you felt like the background character in your own story, this is for you. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm not asking for explanations. I'm just done pretending. Merry Christmas. I hit post and closed the app. Then I took a long shower, put on my nicest sweater, and headed to Aunt Mel's house for Christmas lunch. She'd invited me the day after the event. Said she was making brisket and mashed potatoes, and that she'd love the company. I brought dessert. When I arrived, James was already there, sipping cider and helping set the table. His girlfriend waved at me like we were old friends. It was warm, uncomplicated, real. I was passing out plates when my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then 5 times in a row. I ignored it. After lunch, while we were sipping eggnog and arguing over which Christmas movie was the best, I maintain it's Klaus, I finally checked. Claire, what is wrong with you? Why would you post that for everyone to see? You embarrassed Mom in front of the whole family. Mom, please delete that post. We don't air dirty laundry. This is hurtful, Noah. Luke, bro, was that really necessary? Dad, call your mother. She's upset. And then, the one that mattered. Aunt Lisa, Mom's sister. Noah, I had no idea any of this happened. I'm so sorry. We've always loved you. I'm here if you ever want to talk. That was the crack. By evening, the post had 78 reactions, 43 comments, and 12 shares. I didn't read them all, but I saw enough. Some cousins shared their own estrangement stories. Others commented with support. One even messaged me privately and said, "You have no idea how much I needed to hear this." Thank you. Mom, Claire, and Luke went radio silent after their initial barrage. But I wasn't done yet. 3 days later, on December 28th, I uploaded a new blog post. The most personal one yet. When family doesn't feel like home. I told my story. Again, no names, but with more clarity. I shared the ways I had made excuses for them over the years. The ways I had tried to earn love that should have been freely given. I explained what gaslighting looked like when it wore a smile and brought casseroles. I explained that family isn't blood, it's behavior. That post exploded. Within 48 hours, it had 50,000 views. People emailed. People cried. People called me brave. And then came the kicker. A producer from a regional news station reached out. They were running a segment for the new year on Found Family, and they wanted to interview me. I said yes. The interview aired on January 2nd. Just 5 minutes of airtime. Just a few shots of me sitting in my living room, talking about the cost of silence, the power of truth, and the peace that comes from walking away from what hurts, even when it's family. 2 days later, I got another text from my mom. Mom, you've made your point. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back. Me. I'm not happy that it came to this. I'm happy that I stopped letting you pretend it didn't. And I left it at that. Claire never wrote me again. Luke sent me a sarcastic thumbs up emoji a week later, then blocked me. I thought it would hurt, that the finality of it would break something in me. But all I felt was lightness. Over the next few months, things only got better. The blog reached 100,000 monthly readers. I signed a contract to publish a collection of essays. The hiking group planned a trip to Oregon, and I went. For the first time in years, I let myself travel without guilt. James and I started meeting up regularly. He apologized again, not with words this time, but with presence. Consistency. His girlfriend and I became real friends. Aunt Mel and I talked weekly. I built something out of the ashes. Not just a platform, but a life. And they stayed in their bubble. Pretending. Posting curated family photos with awkward smiles and missing chairs. But not mine. Mine was full. I said it myself. I decided who sat there. And I never once looked back. Sometimes, the most powerful seat at the table is the one you choose to walk away from.